And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome everybody to Crashing Game Night, the first episode of 2025. And for those that have been around us, this is now going into, we were just talking about this, start of year 6. But 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, start of year 7, actually, of doing this. And we
We're
started
still not
1/1,
sick of each other
2019.
yet.
Yeah, we're still not sick of each other.
I know, right?
So tonight we do have a
It
special
may
guest.
sound it on a few episodes, but we're still going strong.
Right.
We're still going strong.
Anyways, but
It's our
we've been
boys.
talking about doing this for, we were talking about, what, 6 to 8 months. Wait, also known as Professor Noctis is joining us.
Hey, what's up?
Yeah.
We've got the beanied one, Gerard Barrera.
What's up, all my nerds? How's it going? Thank you guys for hanging out. And Wade, what's up? I am so excited to hear the moment Matt told me like your story and like how you integrated Final Fantasy, man. I'm so excited to hear like to dive into it. It's very interesting. So thank you and welcome.
Right on.
We've got the babyface one, Thea Walski.
What's up, y'all? Gary, I'm a little disappointed just because it's super cold here in Colorado and there's snow. I had half expected you to be wearing a cardigan because you'd get a chill in California from our snow in Colorado.
Well, we must be getting the wind because it's windy as hell out.
Oh,
right
yeah.
now. But it's
I'm surprised you
California.
guys have power.
I have a sweater. I have a sweater.
It is.
It's not cardigan,
cold
sir.
out here.
So,
you know,
Yeah, it's not cardigan.
we're getting into low 50s
Yeah.
right now, Theo. You better watch out, bro.
Well,
Oh my God,
I'm
I just got
surprised.
to.
I really am surprised you got power because one of the guys that reports to me is just south of LA and they've lost power multiple times because of everything out there. But I would be remiss, ladies and gentlemen, for not introducing the man with the college couch, as we're now calling this.
College couch.
And so, hey, see, it's growing on you guys. It's growing on you. That's what it
I
is.
say it's either the college couch or the budget therapist couch.
I was going to say
either
therapist
one.
couch.
Wow.
Can we-
It's
okay.
growing on you guys, though. It's growing
gonna
on
call
you.
I mean, it's
this-
IKEA. It's still budget,
See, that
right?
guy's thinking about this
Budget.
couch.
I love the budget therapist couch.
No, we're gonna go further. The budget
Awesome.
college therapist couch,
goodness.
the maitre d'
Jeez.
services, the man, the myth, the legend, the Lions made Jason Belidio.
Jay
How's
Rapp.
it going, guys? How's it going? Wade, thank you so much for being on with us tonight. It's going to be, I feel it's going to be a lot of fun. But
I hope
It
Matt
is.
prepared you for what it is to be with us.
We're this the shenanigans.
Yeah.
The
I
pre-show
mean,
was
like-
fun, so
y'all already,
a lot to live up to with the pre-show.
but you guys are already like, you guys are starting to feel this couch out now. Like, you guys are thinking about it more now. You're like, oh man.
I was already open to it. But I was definitely, jumping on the bandwagon of it's an odd couch, but I'm down.
I still feel like if I lay on that bed, I'm gonna feel a disease.
You're gonna constantly like adjust. You're gonna
Yeah.
try each.
So with that,
Feel
You'll
a
catch
disease.
something, sir.
Wow.
so I want to welcome Jeffrey Kiz. Thank you for crashing game night with us tonight. He says he is here for the prof. So we got
Hey,
someone here
yeah,
for
that's
the-
awesome.
Hey, yo.
for Professor Noctis. So I want to
Thank
start
you for
it.
joining.
So you wrote your starting out is, I think one of the most interesting things I've always found is your dissertation was on Final Fantasy 15. Why 15?
Because it came out while I was writing a dissertation, honestly.
Oh,
There you go.
Yeah, I was in a doctoral program and I was writing, I was really doing some research for a different dissertation. Okay. And it wasn't going anywhere. It was like sort of human behavior, human development sort of stuff, not even really anything with education, a little bit more psychology driven. But then I started playing, like day one, started playing Final Fantasy 15. I've been a lifelong Final Fantasy fan. If you can make out the things behind me and like the chair, I mean, all of it's like Final Fantasy is like life for me. But so I started playing this game, and like I've got a few religious studies degrees under my belt before I had started my doctoral work, and I just noticed similarities between the game and a lot of the ancient kingship narratives that were in everything from Jewish literature, ancient Near Eastern, Mesopotamian, Babylonian literature. And I was like, I bet I could teach something, because believe it or not, as riveting as that sounds, students think it's pretty boring. And I was like, how can I spice this up? Maybe I can use a video game for it. And I started testing it out with some classes. It didn't suck because they kept letting me do it. And then, long story short, I turned it into a dissertation about
That's
the
awesome.
impact of using a video game in humanities and history.
Oh,
Nice.
So
What a
it
friend.
could have been a lot of different Final Fantasies to answer your question, but
Yeah.
Final Fantasy 15 was timely released. Like, it was very fortuitously released for me. And then secondly, the themes in that game just really, really cater to some of these elements that I was exploring.
okay.
And you got another one of your followers just joined on in, Jedi
Oh.
Piggy Prime.
Hey,
Welcome
what's
on into
going
Game Night
on?
as well.
Welcome in.
So
No, yeah,
when
that's
you look
freaking
at-
awesome. Because like
Yeah.
I give mad respect for a teacher that knows to be able to make things that are new for learning be relatable in order to make it more easily applied.
Yeah.
And I have great respect for that, because that's how I've always learned, is that I need to relate it to something so that way I know how it applies. And if it's in a matter of real
Yeah.
world or even direct comparison, that's how it's going to make it that much easier for me to learn it. So mad respect, sir. Mad respect.
Yeah. I was also wondering and had a question about when you presented this to be part of your curriculum, did you get a lot of pushback on this? Because I mean, it's a very different kind of way to teach, which I agree with Theo. I'm kind of the same way, which I think this really would have helped me.
So, the weapon of a researcher is data. And so I had done some pilot small group studies with just kind of like focus groups that weren't in a real class or anything. I was just like, this could be a fun extracurricular thing. And I kind of utilized it in student life. I gathered a bunch of students and stuff, and I just took meticulous notes. So when I presented it, I was like, this is what I think is kind of happening. Could we test this out? And they were like, can you turn it into a semester long course? And I was like, absolutely. Yeah, I definitely could. And
There's so much material in the
Like, only a
so much
semester, are you
material.
sure?
Yeah. Man, like, Final Fantasy 15 is not well loved universally. It's sold very well, but it's not universally loved. But what I'll say is that when you slow cook Final Fantasy 15 for an entire semester, everybody in the class ends up loving it. Everybody, like gamers, non-gamers, my sorority girls. I mean, they're just like, this. I didn't know video games were like this.
I wonder if you impacted like the number of new players playing during those times. Like, that's got to
I
be
like
so
to think
cool.
so.
Seeing a nice
Yeah.
little bump in player, like, that's awesome.
Right?
Yeah.
Square's sitting there going, why the heck
Like,
is there extra
hey,
sales on 15?
Are you seeing the 15 numbers? They're
Yeah.
going up. Like, what's
Listen,
going on?
He needs some commission from Square.
Exactly.
That's
That's where I was leading to.
Square Enix, like, let me know.
on
Like,
now.
Yeah.
Hey,
Let
Just
Wade
quick
know.
sponsorship on the YouTube. I mean,
Hey,
at least
uh,
something.
it's-
Come
Let
on now.
Wade
Hey,
know, and then
Chad.
just throw me a bone.
Chad,
to
if
it,
you're
like,
watching
hey,
this, come on. Chad, if you're watching this from Square Enix, I don't like it's one of the PR guys over Chad. He's a great guy. He used to be over at Nintendo, but he's part of the Final Fantasy VII group. Guy, Chad, if you happen to catch this, hook him up. Come on.
Listen, Square Enix
He's preaching the
takes good care of
gospel.
me. They do. But
Oh, I know.
But Final Fantasy 15. I mean, that, like, I was not a content creator back then at all. Like, in
So
fact,
all of this was new. You were diving into this, like, learning, figuring it out.
yeah. Well,
Oh,
so
man.
the goal was to put Final Fantasy 15 in my syllabus as part of my required texts. And so they had to buy a series of texts and then also Final Fantasy 15, or they could watch YouTube videos. And I had a series of not even Let's Plays, just cutscenes for the game that were on YouTube. I didn't do them. Props to whoever we used. I think we used like 5 or 6 different people. I can't even remember. That is so bad of me as a scholar. But they would watch these, and then we would come to class and we would discuss. And then I would show key cutscenes in class for us to kind of experience together and then process together and all this kind of stuff to make it feel like we were all on a journey together. Because that's really the key of it. The point was, if we can do this thing together in a class, you're going to interpret and process the memory of the stuff that we're learning in class very differently. And that really is the I guess we could say the boring stuff of my research. It's the question of what does it do in the brain and how does memory process differently when you're using a game versus reading a text or even watching a movie or something like that. And the reality is it processes a first person style memory in your brain where it's not that Noctis went into the cave, but I did. And if I can compare or create a parallel to, say, ancient text, King David going into a specific cave, tying that to Noctis, then you're going to remember the story about David in the cave. And that's really the learning outcome that I want for
Nice.
you to learn these stories that you don't care about through something you do.
And
Cool.
that in and of itself right there kind of makes also learning using modern day technologies versus just textbooks to teach somebody, because a lot of college classes, let's be honest, they're boring as all heck and you
Yeah.
don't really want to go to them anymore. But Jedi Piggy Prime did have a question while we're
Yeah.
on the topic of that. It's that they asked, what was one of your favorite earliest fun insights a student told you when you started teaching the class?
Um, so a lot of that I can't really talk about, but I can say students have shared some deeply reflective, private, sort of personal memories and
Hmm.
experiences because I have them write reflection papers throughout the semester that correspond with Noctis's journey of ascension. So the story of Final Fantasy 15, for those that may not know, is the story of a young prince who has lost his kingdom and he's trying to reclaim the throne. It's his ascension story. And so I compare that to a student's own ascension into adulthood. This was traditionally a freshman only class, which freshman year I consider the year of how to be a person because you're like growing up and like learning how to
Yep.
live.
You're still
You've got
figuring yourself out
mustard-colored
and you're
couches.
entering
So
like the adult arena.
Whoa,
Yeah.
Wade. Oh,
I've got to
okay,
pay
okay,
bills.
okay,
just saying, like it's just one of those
okay.
things. Like, but they're learning to be a person, and so I'm trying to teach them some of these like adult themes of like growing up and maturity and responsibility, and how do you make a difference in the world and the community in which you live through the story of Noctis. And so they would share these reflections for a grade, and they would talk about kind of their processing this. When Noctis did this, it made me reflect on this moment in my life. And I think that I'm
Mhm.
seeing everything from like my relationship to my dad differently, to the people that I just didn't really give a second thought in my hometown, but now I really miss them. And I actually do care about them the way that Noctis does some of these surrounding side quests. It's amazing some of the rich things that they would say just by giving them the platform to reflect on it.
And I think
See,
that's the
that's
magic of gaming, though, too, right? Is certain things, right? In this case, with your class, it was Final Fantasy 15. For me, it was, Uncharted 3, but also too is like
Yeah.
for also too is like God of War 2018. So the reboot where Kratos is the dad. I started playing that with at the time he was only like 6 months old, my son,
Oh man.
and it was like playing that through a different lens, right? And it was
Yeah.
just the way it drew me in, and I love the story. And I even told Corey Barlog at E3 when we got to see him on the floor, I was like, dude, I've never been a fan of God of War,
Mm.
but this game I loved because of it connected with me on a parent level
Mm.
beyond just what the story was. Um, so how did it evolve from doing 15 to now you guys?
Yeah.
I know you saw I saw one of your posts on there doing 16.
Yeah, yeah. So, let's see. I was teaching Final Fantasy 15. The full class title is Judeo-Christian Kingship through Final Fantasy 15. Just long and short of it. So it's an
You see that? Hold on,
interdisciplinary.
real quick. You see that in your course possible selections, and you're going to be like, "It's a game. Let's go."
Yeah, yeah.
that,
And
or you're gonna
sometimes
be
for
like,
their
wait, what?
if they're
Like,
registering via their phone, it just says Judeo-Christian Kingship dot dot dot. And so some people show up first day and they're like, wait, this is a video game. And I'm like, yeah, there's drop ad. If this isn't for you, that's fine. Um, but so that's the class that I was teaching. And I did that in 2017, 18, and 19. And then in 2020, COVID hit, right?
Mhm.
And we all went online. We were on Zoom, and Zoom is great for a lot of things. It's not super great for live streaming video games and doing like video quality to a mass audience. And so I had the idea and I got permission to start streaming on Twitch some lecture plays, as I called them. Instead of a let's play, a lecture play for my students.
That's how that whole came about.
That was it. Because
That's
these
awesome.
were lectures for my students. Yeah. And so I'm going to play a bit. We're going to pause the game. We're going to lecture a little bit, and then we're going to get back into the game. And I would put timestamps when I was diligent. I would put timestamps, and they could skip ahead to go to the lecture part, or they could go through the whole journey for that evening with me. And so that's kind of how content creation sort of started for me. And so I go through like Final Fantasy 1 through 6 to like 3 viewers or 0 mostly. And then my students would watch the VODs for homework afterwards. And sometimes they would like get together and they would watch them, but then they'd get roommates to also watch them. And so it's like, hey, this is kind of interesting. And so that's kind of how it spread on the campus a little bit. And then I started testing out some different games. I went back to 15 about once a semester. And then I ended up going happenstance, not really invitational or anything. I went to the Final Fantasy 16 launch party out in LA. Okay.
Ooh,
I was one of the
cool.
lucky few that got in. Like it was like a first come, first serve sort of thing, but like
Oh,
I had like
geez,
Oh,
3
sweet.
computers and I was like, I got to get in. So I went. So and while I was over there, I had never put out a video, but I had just been pretty active on Twitter. You may have seen me in the I think it was the 2019 WrestleMania, where I held up a sign that says Final Fantasy 15 is underrated. And that picture of me went bonkers. And so people in the Final Fantasy community
That's
kind of
awesome.
knew me because, oh, it's the WrestleMania Final Fantasy 15 guy.
That's awesome.
And he also apparently teaches or something. And so I got to meet a bunch of those people. And one of them said, his name's David Vincent. He does a lot of JRPG stuff. He said to me, and several others did too, but he specifically was like, hey, you are working twice as hard doing Twitch every single semester, doing the same content. Just do like YouTube, and then your students can watch it and you can move on to something else. I was like, well, that's brilliant. And so I did that. And then Final Fantasy 16 comes out, and I was like, well, obviously, I gotta just look and see if there's anything. I see that you put the picture in the chat. That's exactly it. That's the one. And the best part of that picture, the best part of that picture is that every face in that picture
They're
tells a
all- yeah.
story.
For
Every
those- for
single
those-
I love it. Dude,
For
if
those
they're not
watching along at
cheering,
home,
like,
There's-
that is the
right
perfect.
now,
I don't know
There it
what
is.
was happening in the ring. I have no idea.
I just
But
love
it's
the
just like-
confidence in your face holding that
Yeah,
up.
man.
Like,
Yeah.
You're
I know.
like, it's-
I know. It's just
It
like,
had to
I'm
have been
ready.
during
Let's-
like a match, like something intense was going on. No one's reacting to you.
Nobody
Like
is
perfect
reacting.
moment, dude. Everyone sees your site. Yeah, that was a
Perfect lull moment for it to come
Yeah.
out. It's
It
just
was
amazing.
insane. It was
That's so
insane.
great. But
Not
then
even-
I
the
shared it
other
with his-
people, the other people got me like,
Yep. I did share it
No
with everyone
reaction.
watching along at home right now.
that's so awesome.
It's incredible, right? So
Yeah.
so anyway, like I have these conversations, and let's say I have these conversations, and they're like saying, hey, why don't you give YouTube more of a shot here? And I was like, okay. So I started doing Final Fantasy 16 after my first playthrough of the game, and I always try to stream on hard mode. And so I start playing these lecture plays, and by the end of it, I realized that some of my fellow faculty had been watching some of the
Oh,
No
streams.
way.
And so they asked me at the end of the semester, hey, do you want to do anything with this? And I was like, I've got an idea for another class based on this. I didn't think it would be a class, but I think it could be. And they approved it. And not only that, but I was awarded a teaching grant from the College of Education. And I was able to
Sweet.
research utilizing a video game system in the actual classroom. So we would unpack a PlayStation 5 every single class period, and students would pass around the controller and they would fight different bosses. We'd go through different stories and we'd experience it together as like a journey. It was awesome. It was really, really cool.
That's awesome.
That's
crazy, man.
that's amazing. But also too is it's that whole adage, work harder or work smarter, not harder.
Yeah, right.
You know, so
Yeah.
doing the YouTube videos and posting them and whatnot. So with your classes that you've had, what's been the game that they've enjoyed the most as far as the combination of your lectures coupled with playing through the game?
I think Final Fantasy 15 is probably their favorite, um, simply because it's a little bit more lighthearted than Final Fantasy 16. I mean, both are pretty intense. Hey, I have a quick, like, logistical question. Is my video chopping?
Yes.
A
It
little
is.
A little choppy. Your
Oh,
audio is
timing.
perfect.
Yeah,
Okay,
your
Audio
audio's
is
perfect.
fine, but the video is kind of
Let me see what I can do real quick. Okay,
skipping a sec.
we're gonna just
Not a
see if
problem.
we can.
Sure.
I don't know what's exactly happening, but I'll try to
There you
fix
go.
that in there.
Oh, there we
there we
go.
go. Okay, great.
There you go.
Sometimes you just gotta like hit it, and
You
That's-
were, you know what? You were on a good monologue there.
Yeah, I was
like,
afraid.
I'm gonna
I was like,
let him.
oh,
I'm gonna let the
something's
boy
happening.
cook.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, you gotta let
I'm
him cook.
afraid
Gotta let him
something's
cook.
happened to my video. So,
But no, I could see 15 being the favorite out of the two because 16 is heavy. Like that
16 is
is
super
heavy.
heavy.
So it's also the difference between a 100 level course, which is
Mm-hmm.
15, and a 300 level course, which is Final Fantasy 16. So for me, I just finished a semester of 16, and the title of that class is A Philosophy of Religious Deconstruction through Final
Whoosh.
Fantasy 16. Okay. And we're
Yeah.
exploring two ideas, mythos and
Okay.
logos. Okay. And it's ancient
Mhm.
Greek, understanding these concepts of what is myth and what is practicality, and how do you deconstruct religion in a proper framework to kind of bring about better belief systems, better ritual, better, um, non-harmful forms of religiosity. And that was something that was really, really an interesting sort of thing. And 16 says a lot about that kind of stuff.
So when you look at before you introduce, actually gaming into your archetype for your
Yeah.
classes and stuff, like were your classes still full and everything prior to that, or was that class still kind of like struggling to get people signing up for it to do the class, or was it, doing all right and then you're just like, hey, let's introduce gaming into it?
So let's see. These classes, these classes were made for the use of gaming. And so I wasn't really teaching things like
Mhm.
this in classes. Instead, I designed these courses that kind of had some like elective material. Like you would learn it in like a religious studies class traditionally, but I wanted to do something with media as well that may not be a core requirement, but would kind of deepen somebody that was a major or a non-major for that matter. So, but it also give them a writing credit. So I guess to answer your
Yeah.
question, like I designed these classes for the use of video games. They weren't classes before that. I wasn't teaching Judeo-Christian kingship. I
Yeah.
wasn't teaching religious deconstruction. It was always
Mhm.
connected. And to also answer your question, they are always like with a waiting list. Always.
Wow.
That
Really
Wow.
cool.
is awesome.
That's
cool.
insane.
That's cool, man.
I mean, that
That's a huge
shows you
compliment. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
that's a huge compliment and testament to your thought process and
yeah.
And your
And
idea,
just
it
what
works.
it is,
It's
yeah.
working. Yeah.
Well, it's just weird enough, and it's like
Yeah.
students are like, I'm curious. So like first day of class, I always go through the syllabus and I'll say, this is what's going to be expected of you, the papers you're going to write, just the basic
Mhm.
rhythm and flow. Then the second half of syllabus day, I say, okay, we are going to go around this room. And I usually have some stupid question like, who's more impressive, a magician that can do 3 real tricks that are actual magic, or Albert Einstein, and things like that. But
Yep.
in addition to those questions, I always say, why are you taking this class? Is it religion, religious studies?
Mhm.
Is it the video games? Is it because you need a humanities credit? What is it? And like the answers are always really interesting. I got a shout out to my little Chios and Zetas, the sorority girls that are always like, I've never touched a video game. Like I think I played Mario with my older brother, but I'm here because
Awesome.
it fit in my schedule. I'm like, I love that. And that's going to be so fun. Real talk, one of those sweet sorority girls that I think my first or second semester teaching this, it's the final day of class. Okay. And I've had them watch the ending of Final Fantasy 15 before class. And I walk into class and some of the other students are there and said, hey, you haven't seen, they said her name. And I was like, no, I haven't. She's like, I saw her earlier, like she was in the like dining hall over in the dorm, and she had her laptop propped open, and she was watching the ending and just sobbing over her chicken fingers. I was like, that's the kind of response I want in class. So she comes
And
in,
those
and
those
she
are the
said,
type of
"I
students you want to
hate
get.
that. I'm so sad."
And aren't those the funnest students to get, is the ones that didn't really have that interest,
Yeah.
maybe some ties,
Mhm.
but open their eyes to like maybe even trying the game or just opening them up to checking it out on YouTube and having that reaction. That's amazing.
Well, that's exactly it. I had a student last semester. We forced her to play. I mean, she consented, right? But to play, to play one boss in the game, and she was so terrified. And I have them playing on story mode, so like any level of difficulty can work.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Except one time, I made one guy who was a little arrogant. I made him play on hard mode. It was a real struggle. It was awesome. But anyway, she's playing.
Humility.
She said, I didn't know games were like this. I didn't know that I
Really?
would care about
Yeah.
these characters and like the music.
Yeah.
And she just went on and on and on. And I was like, that's awesome. She was like, this is like a really cool way of telling a story. It's like,
I
that's
love
it.
that because you're also
That's-
opening the eyes to people who don't
Mhm.
truly understand
Yeah.
everything that goes into a video game. Because I always compare it; it's just like a movie, only it's more technical.
Yeah.
And the fact is, you like that student just said, you end up falling in love with the characters.
Mhm.
You care
Yeah.
about them. You're going through this story with them as one of the characters, and it just I love that it opens their eyes to that, because then you could throw them suggestions like, if you love story and character, check out Last of Us. There's
Oh,
a
yeah.
TV show about it.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
It just opens those doors for people to explore that, and I love
Yeah.
that you're helping that as well.
Yep.
That's it. That's actually what we're doing this semester. I'm to coincide with the Max series, I guess we call it now. But we're doing a lecture play and lecture series of The Last of Us season 1 and 2 this semester.
Oh,
Just-
that's my wheelhouse,
Oh
baby.
my
Oh,
goodness.
that,
just
yeah.
to
Oh
try
my
it out,
That's
like
cool.
because like the Final Fantasy stuff has always been like, I love that. It's my favorite series of all time. But it's a proof of concept. And so the thought is we can do this with more games. Any game can be used in learning and teaching. And what I'm finding is there's some real traction in high schools and other universities to really explore these kind of things. And what we want to do is help resource educators to do what they do better and easier and in a way that's going to impact students.
So
That's
what?
amazing. That's awesome.
I mean, I was going to ask that question, like
Yeah.
because this has been like, I mean, you've been doing these for a few semesters now, and you've been like having some obvious feedback from both students and faculty. I mean, do you think that this could open up like a new pathway of learning certain things? Because I mean,
Maybe
for
even
example,
going to the degree of like a curriculum.
well,
Is
not
that
not
what
a
you're
curriculum,
thinking,
but I mean, like for example, like I love playing, and I am a avid gamer of Hellblade Senua
Yeah.
Saga, and obviously, like they did have a few PhD doctors come in for the entire psychology aspect of it. Like, do you think that not obviously like, oh, next semester is going to pop up, but I mean,
Yeah.
in the future, like we start moving into like using video game as a medium to like push like certain aspects of academics that we've had like that's I guess zoned out, and now we're like
Mhm.
zoning in.
That is the core of my research, right? To see how we can take these story-driven games, for me personally, story-driven games, to build excitement and intrigue for things that students don't
Mm-hmm.
find particularly interesting. And so, I mean, I've got real hope that we're going to build a library of curriculum, both through YouTube video and through perhaps print or digital print resources to help faculty do what they love better. The thing is, the research shows that memory is going to be stronger when you have that level of agency that a video game
Mm-hmm.
offers. And with a good teacher or professor, you're going to be able to make those connections. But the problem is, most teachers aren't gamers and they don't know how to use it. And so that's
Mm-hmm.
where those of us who are educators and also gamers can come in and say, hey, we can do this. And I'm not the only one doing it. A lot of them are busy writing books, and I'm, making YouTube videos, I guess. But it is a growing movement. I would love to see it more in the next 5, 10 years.
I think the only other time I know of, like that's actually been put out there in the media and stuff like that,
Yeah.
of an educator using a game is with Assassin's Creed Origins, and they were
Yep.
teaching
Oh
Egyptian,
yeah,
ancient Egyptian, and they were using
That's
the
the
game
map, the
itself.
game map.
Yeah. You've seen the only other instance would be going into Assassin's Creed and going to Notre Dame.
Yes.
And because
The
they went
Oh, and
into such
Unity.
detail
Yeah.
into Notre Dame, and
Actually,
they've even used that
yeah.
game to actually aid in the reconstruction
Yeah.
of Notre Dame
Right?
after the fire, which is insane that
It's wild.
Ubisoft went to that degree on the
because it was that
research.
detailed, they could use. Yeah, it's crazy that I remember that
Well,
segment. That was crazy.
And this is the world that we're going to be living in, and we're already seeing it. I mean, imagine in 10, maybe 20 years or however long, students in third grade who are learning about the pyramids can put on a VR headset and they can go take a joint field trip to the pyramids. That's something
Mhm.
that most
Wild.
children are never going to dream of. And
Yeah.
then as they're learning these things, maybe they're caught up in a narrative that goes along with it. Well, that's going to cement for them a love for ancient Egypt
Mhm.
and these pyramids. And you can do that with anything, right? I was
Yep.
having a conversation earlier today about Illusion of Gaia. Do you remember that game for the Super Nintendo?
Ooh, yeah.
Okay. Listen, this game might be a bigger part of my origin story than Final Fantasy 15 because it's where I learned about the Nazca Lines and the Tower of Babel and Angkor Wat and all of these
Mhm.
places that were real world sort of
Gnarly.
things. And I just wanted to learn about them after that because I was exposed to them in games. And I think that we are going to move to that, but you got to have educators be a catalyst for it.
Mhm. So what is it about Final Fantasy specifically that makes it your favorite gaming franchise?
Oh man, so it's rooted in memory. For me, I mean, when I was in second grade, first and second grade, sitting in my dad's lap, reading mythological words like Leviathan and Bahamut that I don't know
Mhm.
what they are, but dad's helping me sound them out. And I'm learning about these things, and he would tell me real world stories about the Titans of ancient Greece and
Mhm.
as best as he knew. I mean, he didn't know all of these things to the extent that they existed, but he could tell me enough of the story to pique my interest. And so I remember playing Final Fantasy 4/2 on the Super Nintendo, and it just changed my world because I realized this is like a book that I would read, but I'm doing stuff in it. And so
Mhm.
I looked forward to Final Fantasy 3 and I just like pored over the instruction booklet like we all did because I would bring it to school and I would like learn to draw the characters and I would like,
Ah,
Games with manuals.
yeah,
right? We
the
miss
best,
them,
man.
and like they aren't for adults, they're for kids that are taking them to try to get through their English class and they're just jotting down, stats and stuff for penmanship awards or whatever. I don't even know if they do that anymore. We had penmanship awards. I never won them,
Penmanship,
but
not as much.
Nope.
handwriting stuff.
Jedi
I got
Piggy
chicken
Prim,
scratch.
Jedi Piggy Prim is asking, Professor, if you had to pick one place to explore in VR or a video
man.
game like Notre Dame, where would you pick? And that also goes to us too.
Oh man, I mean honestly, I feel like I got that with Ghost of Tsushima.
Mhm.
The kind
Solid.
of like
Ooh, cool.
Mhm.
ancient Japan
Good.
sort of stuff. I'm like
Good
that
choice.
that gave me that experience. I'd love that one.
Everyone knows my answer.
Real
Red
quick,
Dead.
Yeah.
want to give him, of course, Red Dead.
I
Real
mean, that's
quick,
what y'all.
But you
Cowboys
won't
and
go
Indians,
anywhere. You're
that-
just gonna
that-
be fishing the whole time.
Or hunt. No,
Right?
I'm hunting. I'm in the forest. I'm
That was
hunting.
me in 15. I get that.
um, David Vink Streams in chat said, "Hey Wade, thanks for the shout out. Congrats on the stream too." And he did
Absolutely.
mention though, he was like, "No kidding, I had 70-year-old guys droning on about ancient history and philosophy." And to your point, right, is hey, you know, um, let's do it in a way that engages everybody versus what I was saying is like making it so boring they actually just zone out.
No.
Um,
That's so crazy because the how you've elevated everything, it just reminded me of the one class in my high school that everybody loved, and the one teacher they all loved was Greek mythology, and we would always go through the Odyssey. But her way to compare the hero's journey and all that, we would watch all three Lord of the Rings movies, but comparatively, we had to write papers and compare it,
Yeah.
and same thing.
It's a good
And
teacher. Yeah.
same with Star Wars, all three, because there was a lot of symbolism in both those franchises, and it was just an easier way to learn. I mean,
mine,
yeah, it was awesome.
the one I can remember from high school, this would have been my sophomore year, I think. Yeah, something like that. We watched The Power of One,
Hmm.
which is about the apartheid in South Africa. Stephen Dorff, Morgan Freeman.
Good book
It's
too.
it's an
Really good book.
amazing movie.
Yeah,
But it was
amazing
we were
movie.
learning about
Great
the
book.
apartheid, in our world history class, and they're like they watched the movie and it just kind of was just like, yes, it's a story, but it was showing really what the apartheid really was like at that time. And it really hit home. It made me really think about those things.
Yeah.
I think for VR perspective, to answer Jedi Piggy Prime's
I
question
want to say
is,
Horizon. I'm guessing Horizon.
no,
Oh
actually,
no, okay.
I would want to be on the grassy knoll for JFK's assassination. The reason being is, I wrote two papers. So I wrote one paper on
Interesting.
it my um my freshman year of high school. I wrote a paper on it, and I also wrote a paper on it in my freshman year of college.
Hmm.
So that was like kind of an era that I really did a lot of research on and whatnot. And it would have been just to be on the grassy knoll at that time to see, okay, which story is actually true.
Hmm.
Because we know that the Zapruder film and
It's
we know
also true. And where did you
the
really
Warren
hear the
Commission.
gunshot? That's also, yeah. There's a
You
lot
know,
of those theories, yeah.
because you look at the Zapruder film against to what they said at the time with Lee Harvey Oswald from the book repository, none of it kind of lines up. So it's like it would be nice to actually be there to see actually what happened in this momentous occasion
Yeah.
in the United States history. As tragic as it was, right? It was still momentous and it put us on a different trajectory as a country. So for me, that's just where I would look at it. As much as yes, I would love Horizon, but if I'm gonna look at something gaming wise, I'm going Uncharted just because of the different places
Locations
of
and-
historical significance for the world
Yeah.
history that you go to.
Boy,
You know,
that's a great pick.
That probably would have been my
Yes,
second,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We should know. I mean, I'm a Horizon and Uncharted junkie, but that's just for me. It would be Uncharted. So, so David, so for me, I didn't get to watch movies in college. We watched some of them when I was in high school.
Actually,
Back in
yeah,
the,
that class
you know, for
class
me,
I was speaking about, that was
um,
high school.
yeah. So
Yeah, that was
it
like
was
my
high school
junior
that we
year.
got to do that, and whatnot. So, now speaking of Horizon, I wanted to kind of put this out to everybody. So at CES today,
Oh yeah, I was gonna
Sony
text you
made
about this.
two announcements.
I knew
One
you
is
were gonna
about
be
a game
excited.
I love, a
Yeah.
game Jerry loves,
Oh yeah,
but they're now going to make movies out of Helldivers 2 and Horizon.
yeah.
Helldivers.
Well, they also no. Helldivers is gonna work. If they do it all
They've
right.
already made the movie.
in
It's called
retrospect,
Starship
it's already
They've
been
Troopers.
already,
done.
they've
Yeah.
already made it. Super Troopers. Exactly. That's why the movie's gonna work.
Starship
As
Troopers,
long
not
as they
Super
keep
Troopers.
it. Starship Troopers. I'm sorry, Starship Troopers.
We ain't chugging maple syrup here.
Yeah. But no, I think Helldivers, if they don't like try and throw so much money into it and like give it its life, it's gonna do well. Horizon, I trust Sony. That's their baby.
Yeah.
They're gonna handle it with care. I just can't wait to see it.
There's already a campaign going around on Twitter that Joris Demand, the the composer of the soundtrack kind of started. They're like, "Hey, we're all on board as long as the original composer's back."
Sweet. Down.
And I joined in. I was like, "Give me George Stamatic, give me Julie Elden."
Those
And,
Helldivers 2, man. No.
It's gonna work. No, dude, that can create a franchise. Just an great action franchise.
It needs to be
done.
one movie. I'm gonna say it right now. It needs to only be one movie when they're doing Helldivers 2.
Yeah, absolutely. But then they also announced Until Dawn is in production as well.
Why? Just let it die.
I don't think that's needed.
Hear that one. Oh man,
that's a choose your own adventure though. That like
but still, like, with the story was still structured like throughout the game, so like they can still.
But so are a lot of other ones, like Detroit Becoming Human or
Detroit Become Human.
Better choice. Way better choice.
They could have totally done any of those.
I think that was a way.
Heavy Rain.
Let Until Dawn die. Dawn is
a question.
Just let it go.
Dawn is gone.
Let me ask this. So, wait, from a class perspective, right? Would you ever consider doing something like a Detroit Become Human with the philosophical discussions that are in that game, but it's also a kind of choose your own path to see what your choice ramifications are?
That's actually an interesting question, given the fact that robots were just announced at the last Tesla meeting. We could, or the Tesla showcase,
whatever that thing was.
We could be heading down that road.
Let me ask you this question. If you were to put together a basic topic of curriculum, what would you focus on for Detroit?
For me, it would be the philosophical and ethical morality of introducing AI into modern day society. That's where I would look at it, because it talks about or B is because it deals with civil rights.
And you want this
I would go, a dive into the civil rights movement of America and use Detroit as that mechanism, that vehicle to really talk about what it was like, because there are very poignant points in Detroit Become Human where all you have to do is replace the robots with the African Americans that we're going through on, down in the South, so you could do either one. I would probably go more with the civil rights movement.
Good. So I think that having some kind of idea of like, okay, this is what I took personally from the game, because here's the thing, like, these games on the surface are about what they're about, but when we bring all of our experiences, a friend of mine recently said, we are our experiences. And so whatever we are consuming, we automatically bring every experience we've ever had, and that brings a lens to that particular medium. So whatever it is that was particularly meaningful to you, that's where you would kind of extract it and say, okay, can I do some research, build in some lectures around this, and how would that flow with the flow of the game and stuff? And that's my starting point. So I never really look at a game and I say, I want to turn that into a class. Instead, I think to myself, what was the impact that had on me? How did it help me think differently? So for example, I'm playing Metaphor right now while I'm also reading Thomas More's Utopia, and they're great companion pieces, okay? And as I'm doing this, I'm thinking to myself, is there a message or a meaning that is particularly insightful that's helping me learn and orient to my community and civilization better? That may be completely bankrupt by the end of it, but for me personally, I'm a learner by like nature. And so every game I said on stream one time, my GameStop is right next door to a Barnes and Noble, and it is always a double stop for me.
Oh, sweet. Yeah.
So I grab a game and then I go buy a book that I think is going to correspond to that. And sometimes it hits, sometimes it doesn't. But that's my rule for gaming.
Very cool.
Myself.
I feel like if you threw in a Target in that mix, you're screwed.
You got to go across the street.
You're bankrupt, I would actually kind of look at it into a more modern take, more closer towards with the Detroit subject. I would look more towards comparing it to like iRobot to.
I was thinking the same thing.
Where do we draw the line to how we treat the robots. We can still throw in the social
Yep.
aspect there, but it's also to a degree. Do we consider them tools? You know, just like pets, we consider them family. They have souls. You know, where do we draw the line there?
Or
Because
like
to a
with
degree,
iRobot.
as humans, we embrace them after so long, and they're helping us. There's, you know,
Yeah, the level of trust
the
that you
level of
put
trust
into
and the
them.
relationship that can be drawn from that.
Mm.
You know, that's very interesting. And then, you know, if it's something needs a repair, or if you just, you know, replace it, is it that easy?
Yeah.
I would look more into that aspect of, if they were introduced to the world, how would we accept them and treat them, you know, in that way?
Since we're
Are they
talking
going to
about
stay tools, or do they become more?
since we're talking about that, that makes me think that you can add on to curriculum another movie that I hope that everybody has seen, with the good old Robin Williams Bicentennial Man.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Because
Yeah.
that's
I love that movie
your
too.
thing, because he is a robot, he is a servant, he is learning, he's trying, ends up becoming a family member, working his way into becoming a real person.
Yeah.
So
But to a degree,
And-
because then he had to fight for his humanity, even though he made artificial organs that humans were using.
Yep.
But he was still being considered a robot. But then later on, he was given his humanity.
And you know what's funny
Yeah,
about this?
that's a great example.
I can see Wade just nodding, and he's like, "This is exactly what my curriculum's
this is what
about."
I do, man. This is what I do.
Participate. Where is it, baby?
I mean, these are the questions and conversations we have when we're
Yep.
discussing what is our final thesis paper going to be.
Mhm.
And so, like for my 16 class, I presented the game and I said, "So, what are the messages that you are taking from this?" And so I had final papers where a student researched Hinduism and the impact on cultural civilization throughout
Okay.
the ages. Fascinating paper. Another one looked at all of the different deities represented in 16 and compared
Good
them
idea.
to different representations in
That's
North
cool.
America.
Wow.
And that was awesome. I'm really trying to get permission to share some of those papers, just because they're so good.
Yeah.
But like,
No, yeah.
listen, I mean, that's the beauty of these games. It's like you just lay it out there, and then you ask the question. So, what did you take from that? And
Yeah.
suddenly, that's the
Mhm.
elements of a curriculum design.
Yeah, and I think it also adds to the fact of how good like some of the games. And me and Jay, we used to work at a video game store, and we
Yeah.
always say, like, you know what, if you want story-based games, get a PlayStation. If you want like more action, go get an Xbox. If you have
Yeah.
a family, get a Nintendo. You know, it's kind of a
Yeah.
base thing. But the main thing that I'm trying to get to is that the story that, and you know, we use Detroit Human. You know, Matt has like a civil rights class. Jerry and Theo having more like a more um class into like how do you have the robots like in society and stuff like that. I mean,
Integrate into
even me,
society.
yeah, like I would probably do it as an ethics thing as well, where it's like, hey, do you consider robots to be, you know,
Yeah.
property or
Mm-hmm.
like something more? And yeah, that does, or when it does go into that even
Mhm.
more, is like, do you think of it as injustice if you see something wrong with a robot? You know, like something like that.
Because technically they're property. So like, if
Yeah,
do
it's
we jump in
property.
if we see something wrong, or are
Mhm.
we in the
Or
wrong?
or even
Or
more so,
yeah.
like, do we become like the humans on Wall-E, you know, where, you know, we
Yeah.
just all of a sudden become sentient,
Or do
but
we
we
be,
just
or does Skynet happen?
yeah,
Or-
we just send
oh,
we just
can't
send the
forget
robots
Skynet.
out, you know.
That's right.
Can't forget, no.
Never
But
forget Skynet.
I think it's just
So-
having that mentality of like seeing the story, seeing like everyone's perspective on it. I think that's like that's what you're going with your classes, and I'm like, yo, man,
Yeah.
that is something next level that we need to start embracing. I feel like the next level of the next generation needs to start embracing a little
Well, and
bit.
that's where I, as the instructor,
Yeah.
have to think to myself, okay, so how can I take this even to the next level for those in my class? So you mentioned all these ideas of ethics. Well, there's all of these ethicists that have come up with philosophies and practices and stuff. So it's my job to curate those and kind of create a buffet and say, okay, where are you seeing some of these matchings? So
Yeah.
one of the things that I do do as a teacher is I listen to my students and the things that they're particularly interested in. And so just because I've got the syllabus set doesn't mean that my work is done. Like I just like put it on autopilot or autoplay or whatever. I'm going to go to the library and I'm going to be like, okay, so what are some of these theories and philosophies that I need to brush up on that may be out of my system, but I can share and provide for my students so that they can really do something that they are interested in. And that's part of my goal as a teacher, professor in those settings.
And I think that's what makes good teachers is because you're not just stuck in one specific way, like my way or the highway. It's
it's not the
okay,
same. You're thinking outside the box. You're trying to get them engaged,
and whatnot.
That's the best way. That's awesome.
So
that's the difference with college, though, I will say, because like with college students, and you can do this a little bit with high schoolers, middle schoolers, it's way tougher, but you can try it. You think of yourselves as a collaborative scholarship. Like you have experiences that I don't have, even though I've got mileage on me versus you, right? So like let's kind of think through those things. Why are you bringing this to the table, and what can we learn from that as a class, and me as even as your instructor? It's good stuff.
Yeah.
So since we were talking about like Horizon and Helldivers and stuff, if you could pick one game to be made into a movie, what would your personal movie choice be, Wade?
It's so tricky because I really feel like the games that I love the most are already so immersive. Like I mean, I don't want to see a Final Fantasy movie. We kind of did that with Spirits Within. It did not translate well. Did anybody see that? I took a date on it. I don't recommend.
Yeah, it was terrible. I feel like it had nothing to do with Final Fantasy. It was around that time where they bought the title, they bought the name.
Yeah, and there were some Final Fantasy VII live streamy sort of sequences in it. It's fine, but it wasn't particularly good. I think they tried it again with Advent Children, and then finally with Kingsglaive, which I use in my class. I preface, and I'm like, guys, y'all, this movie is not very good. And then we finish it, and they're like, that was better than. And I was like, yeah, I have to lower the bar.
Set the bar.
Set the bar low.
You set the expectation like, okay, like be prepared.
That's it. And I like really go all out. I'm like, we're gonna order pizzas. We're gonna turn this into a great class time because I know that it could derail their interest for this game pretty quickly. So it's like I gotta make it really fun. But so weirdly, would
my
not
apologies for using part of the soundtrack for your promo video.
Listen, no. Listen, I love Kingsglaive. I love it. I adore it, but I understand what it is. Like I say about 15 in general, it's a 7 out of 10 game that's a 10 out of 10 in my heart. So, like
there we go.
And I think we all have those games.
Yeah.
For me, though, I think video game movies and media do best when they are either building a story that only existed in your imagination beforehand. So like Mario and Sonic, I think do this amazingly.
Oh yeah.
Because these are the adventures that we dreamed that they would have when they weren't, on screen with us. It's like, oh, I bet Sonic and Tails would do this sort of thing. Or Mario and Luigi, they had, it's like all those kind of things. But when you're trying to translate something that the story is so canonized to a screen, it's challenging. That's why I love The Last of Us, because they said, yeah, you had the experience of the game, but this is a whole new canvas. We're going to add some things. We're going to subvert some expectations. So like, that's what I love. If they can do that, but to not cop out, give you an answer, I think Astrobot would be a great one to really build.
Game of the year.
Man, I love it. I started playing it about a week ago, and I adore this game. I just got to the giant.
You just won more points with Matt.
Oh man, I love it.
Dude, the game, honestly, my kids keep playing the game. Like, I think that's for me, when you have a game that your kids will just constantly play over and over again, that says a lot. Like right now, Jerry will understand this when I go this route, is I've introduced my kids to Star Wars through the Lego Star Wars game. Like they're playing through it, and then they see the movies in my catalog or like my library, and they're like, he's like, I just finished that. like, and he's sitting down and watching the
That's so
movies now
smart. Oh,
Yeah.
that's good.
because he's played through all these different ones. Like at the Return of the Jedi fight against the Emperor in the game, it's Lego Luke and Lego Darth Vader
Yeah.
battling Palpatine together and stuff like that. I'm like, that didn't exactly happen that way in the movie,
Yeah.
but we'll watch it so you can see it. Like, he is so excited now to go see the re-release of Episode 3 for the anniversary in May.
Sweet.
It is going to be his first Star Wars on the big screen.
Oh,
Like,
and the big screen. That's gonna be
It's
awesome.
so good.
For me
Yeah.
it was Phantom Menace. Or no, it
Mm.
wasn't Phantom Menace. It was it was New Hope when they did the re-release back
Me
in
too.
96.
When they
What was it,
when
like the
they
anniversary?
when they got retouched to
Yeah.
go to digital and updated, yeah, and they re-released the whole
I
the whole
remember
3
that.
movies. Yeah, me and Grandma went to all 3, man. I loved
So-
it. That was my first time as well going
Mhm.
to see them in the movie theater.
So
It
as
was
we close this night out, because it is already at the top of the hour.
Oh,
for
are you
Dang.
serious,
Wow.
man?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
already what?
see, God.
So this is what happens
Jesus.
when you come to game night. Anyways, so speaking of game night, this is a question we've asked of every single guest
Mhm.
Okay.
in the history of our show, their first time on the show is
Yep.
when you have the ability to have a game night with your friends and family.
Mm.
What is your favorite game to play for game night, regardless if it's a board game, card game, video game, whatever
Video
it is?
game.
What is your
Made
favorite
up game.
for game night?
Oh man, Mario Party.
Oh,
It
nice.
is, man. Like I love Mario Party because especially if I want to remove someone from my life, that game ends friendships. It's just fun. Like I love it.
So if
That's
I'm
so
ever
great.
around you, Wade, and you bring up being
like, guess
Mario Party, I'm
what?
going to ask, what did I do wrong?
Either that or who are we eliminating?
Yeah.
But you know I love you if I let you win. It means I keep you around.
Oh,
You let me win. Damn, I'm that bad. Gee.
Dang.
That's just that I'm that good, bro.
Oh, nice.
There it is.
Okay.
There it is.
I mean, that's like Settlers. That'll
Oh,
ruin
shut up.
friendships real quick.
Oh, shut up.
It is. Mario Party
is
has been
so
like
annoying
in the
with that
Settlers,
game.
hasn't it?
Yes.
Many
Yeah.
times.
So, anyways, I want to thank everybody who crashed game night with us tonight. We had several new people that joined in. Thank you for guys. I know you guys were here for Professor, but thank you for giving us a
Yeah,
chance
man.
to entertain you for the night, give you some laughs, give you a little bit of distraction from the daily grind on that. For the first time watchers, if you like what you heard, drop us a follow. You can also head on over to crashinggamenight.com. We have a contributors and guest page where you can check out all our past guests, including the profile we have for Professor Noctis himself, with all the links to his social medias and everything like that. But guys, just with everything going on in the world right now, like overseas, here stateside, just please be excellent to each other.
That's right, everybody. We just want to continue spreading that same message after every episode. Wade, thank you so much for joining. This was such an interesting discussion, and I hope for more success and for you to go even further with your curriculum and creating more, because you're really helping out there, and it was just so much fun to learn more from you. And
Thank you. I mean, the pleasure was mine. Like we've been trying
Thank
to make
you.
this happen for a
Yes.
while. I'm so glad. Like
me too.
It's been so fun.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. And then once again, we just want to spread. Let's just try to do and be better out there. It is, like Matt said, it's crazy abroad and home in the homestead. Let's just try to eyeball any kind of moments that we can help. Lend a hand. Just sit and listen. Let's just try and practice to be a little bit more open and accepting. And let's be safe out there. To J-Rock, J-Bone, to you, baby.
Again, Professor, thank you so much. It is it's quite eye-opening, and again, it's one of those things where I hope it does catch on, especially with our new generation of people that are so phone addicted, that is just like, they don't know what to do in a library kind of situation, but it's okay. We're evolving. It's fine. It's fine. But thank you so much for your time. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, people out there, it is the first week of the new year. Please, let's
Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year, guys. I haven't been able to say Happy New Year to you guys like
Yeah.
well, face to face, you know.
Yep.
Happy New Year, guys. Anyways, please, it's only 6 days, 7 days if you want to count it. Into the new year, we got a lot to look forward to. 2025 is going to be a fun and interesting year. So please let us just look, like Jerry said, and likes to take my thunder sometimes. Just be nice to each other. Just start off your resolutions. Go through with it. Go that 1 month. Every day is a new day, and
Already
we'll be able
started.
to push. Yeah, we'll be able to push through all the way to the new year.
Mhm.
But one of the things that I get to say for the first time this new year,
Yeah.
my man Theo Walski, send us up the 2025 ladder with this way you do.
Wade, thank you again as well. We really hope that you join us again. We would just talking shop or whatever.
It was fun.
Open
honestly,
invite.
talking about
I
it.
mean, we'll go off
we
the
could-
rail with movies and games, and just trying to compare it to other things. But
You need
we'd
idea.
love to have you
We'll
back.
be your idea machine. Whatever you need.
The idea
Listen, I've been
machine,
taking
like,
notes.
you know
I got
what?
classes for years now.
But all out there, thank you for watching. Thanks for listening. Till next time, TTFN. Ta-ta for now.
Good night, everybody.